The Israeli military has carried out extensive airstrikes across southern Lebanon, ordering people in more than 100 towns to leave. Air raids are targeting what Israel says are Hezbollah's command and control structures, as well as its fighting capabilities, as the army prepares to expand its ground incursion. Troops have moved into some areas, but Hezbollah is still positioned along the border and is still fighting. The group has also been sending missiles across the border, targeting Israel's third-largest city of Haifa in the biggest attack in a year of hostilities. In a second recorded speech since the assassination of Hezbollah's leader Hassan Nasrallah, the Deputy Secretary General appeared more confident and defiant.
The
ground clashes began 7 days ago, and the Israelis have yet to advance. We want to clash with them. No one should think that we will leave our positions or abandon our arms. The only solution for us is to resist and persist. The ground will show that they will suffer losses, and that will be the beginning of the end of the war.
But Israel's air campaign in areas where Hezbollah has a presence is now in its third week. It's been relentless. The Israeli military says it is changing its security reality across the board and has the backing of its main ally, the United States.
We're supportive of them targeting Hezbollah, but of course we expect them to target Hezbollah in a way that complies with international humanitarian law and that minimizes civilian casualties.
It's described as the most destructive war yet between longtime enemies, but Western nations are blaming Hezbollah.
With our partners, we are ready to work collectively for de-escalation and peace in the region. In Lebanon, the violence threatens to plunge a very fragile country into a lasting chaos, threatening Israel's security even more than today. Hezbollah bears a heavy responsibility for this situation, having dragged Lebanon into a war it did not choose.
Speaking in Israel, the French foreign minister made no mention of a proposal it presented along with the United States for a 21-day truce to allow for broader negotiations. But he did speak of the need to support the Lebanese army and reactivate state institutions. Lebanon's prime minister says not one country that supported a proposed 21-day truce is trying to revive it. Lebanon's government, and to a certain extent Hezbollah, had accepted it, but Israel rejected it. And the feeling among officials close to Hezbollah is that Western nations and its allies in Lebanon are trying to take advantage of the group's perceived weakness after it lost much of its military and political leadership as well as its infrastructure. They sent a message that Hezbollah will not be disarmed as a condition to stop the war, at least not under fire. What they are offering is a ceasefire and the implementation of UN Resolution 1701, which would see a strengthening of the Lebanese army's presence along the border. Hezbollah's leadership says it supports that position in principle. Now it needs the leverage to win a war, which Naim Qassem says is about who screams first. Zeina, Khodr, Jazeera, Beirut.
Well, let's get an update from Ali Hashem. He's joining us live from Beirut. And Naim Qassem spoke about a range of issues, Ali, including what he called collective leadership of the group. Tell us more.
Well, indeed, this is Naim Qassem's second speech, and it's clear that Hezbollah is establishing a connection with its supporter base and also with its rivals and allies. It's trying to say, I'm here, and things are starting to get into norm, and that even if there is going to be a collective leadership, Naim Qassem said clearly, they are going to elect a new Secretary General, but he ensured his supporters that in every position within the command chain, the ones who were killed were replaced by their deputies or their assistants, and that things are going to be different from now on. He delegated to the Lebanese speaker Nabih Berri negotiations with the international community, with Israel, in order to reach a ceasefire. However, he drew a thin line between a ceasefire, a complete ceasefire, and a kind of a truce, and that was clear from his words. So Naim Qassem today looked different from the first speech when he spoke, and at the same time he was hinting that there is going to be a long battle. And it's not going to be a short war, especially when he said that it's going to be who shouts first.
And certainly it's only been intensifying even as he was speaking, Ali. There have been continuing strikes on Dahia. Israel says it's hit Hezbollah's intelligence headquarters. What do we know?
Well, in fact, there have been several strikes overnight and today. But the main news coming now is from the south, where Hezbollah said it has attacked an Israeli unit that infiltrated near Naqoura, behind the United Nations Interim Forces in Lebanon's base, and that there are several between killed and injured. Actually, pictures of this attack were seen on live TV. Lebanese television was broadcasting from there. So for now, there are several attacks, at least 8 or 9 attacks this day from Hezbollah, including one on Haifa with a very vast barrage, as we understood. Israel continues its attacks around Tyre, around Beirut, the southern suburb, and in several areas around Lebanon. It's a war situation, whereas both sides are trying to inflict on the other as much price as possible.
Elijah Magnier, he's a military and security analyst, joining us here in the studio. Great to have you with us, Elijah. So let's talk more about that speech by Naim Qassem. What did you make of it, and his incredibly defiant, and as we've been hearing from our correspondents, not just defiant, because we saw that in his last speech a few days ago, but also he seemed to even be challenging Israel, or rather challenging Israel even more than he did last time. I mean, he spoke about creating more internally displaced people in Israel.
That's a very important point, because the history of Sheikh Naim Qassem, he was involved and responsible, although he held the position of Vice Secretary General, but he was dealing only with the deputies and the government. He had nothing to do with the militaries. This is the first time we hear him talking in the military language, saying that he promised the Israelis that they will have more internally displaced people, which is challenging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who said that his objective, apart from the liberation of all the prisoners in Gaza, but the return of all the Israelis to the north. Mm-hmm. That is a language used by the military, and used to be only the exclusivity of Sayyid Hassan Nasrallah. And also, when he described also the battle that was going on in the south, it means that he is from now on the spokesperson of Hezbollah.
Well, I suppose that's natural after the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah. Do you see the change, of him talking more militarily now because Hassan Nasrallah is no more? Is that why we're hearing from Naim Qassem about such things? And what does all of this mean for the state of the group now and what it's thinking?
Well, as your correspondent Ali Hashem said, this is his second appearance after the beginning of the war on Lebanon in the last few weeks. He is appearing more confident, he's more calm, he's in control. He is not saying that I am the new Secretary General, because there is going to be an election, but it's not going to happen soon, and there is no need for a new election at the moment. There's a war to run. But from his position to come and speak about what's going to happen in the future, he is sending a message of command and control, unlike what the Defense Minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, said, that Hezbollah has received a very severe blow. So now, if the Israelis have stopped the clock on that time, they're really going to be very disappointed, because Hezbollah has absorbed this hit and is moving forward. And we have seen...
So you think Hezbollah has absorbed this hit, and that it can recover from the last 3 unprecedented weeks?
Absolutely. Hezbollah hit Haifa a few days ago. And then
it hit Haifa today with at least 100 rockets.
That is correct. And then hit Tel Aviv simultaneously, with Gaza sending rockets on Tel Aviv and the Houthis, Ansarullah, sending a missile on Tel Aviv. There is a coordination here that we haven't seen in last week, which means that Hezbollah is regaining the control, accepted the tactical defeats that he has suffered from, and now saying all the commands that have been killed, has acknowledged there are around 350. Israel killed 20, 30. So the remaining are still in control. Mm-hmm. And this is where Naim Qassem coming out more confident and saying you will have more internally displaced people, which means he understands where Israel suffered the most in its domestic front.
Elijah Magnier, thank you very much for your analysis. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. But thank you for now.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.